Hello and welcome to this space. I'm Coach Renee, and I help people have the right perspective when it comes to situations that arise in life. And I believe in helping everyone place their stamp on the world, which is that unique thing that makes you who you are. It might be that innovative idea, um, just service, product, whatever it is that you do that only you can do. And I remind people that you have a responsibility to place your stamp on the world because if you don't do it, no one else will. And so I have just made it one of my life's goals to help people do just that. If you have not done so already, please like, subscribe, follow wherever you're hearing this or seeing this. Share it with a friend or family or anyone who you think may be blessed by it, because my goal is just to help people do life better and do life well. I'm going to call this episode Ouch, because today I'm going to go over things that cause me pause, cause me to say ouch, cause me to clench my own pearls, like, statements and things that really made me think about how I'm moving through life, the way that I'm doing life, and some ways that I could be better. Helps me to also with my perspective and my mindset, how am I viewing situations and interactions, whether it's dealing with other people or just dealing with myself. So let's just jump right into it. Let's rip the band-aid off. Let's just go for it. Okay. Now, I started the year off with this quote right here. The scariest place to be is the same place as last year. Grow. Now, that seems like a very simple statement, right? Just grow, just do what you have to do to be better. And that's good in theory, but sometimes in action, that's a lot, right? Because you think about all the failures and the things that you tried. You think about the list of things that you know you're supposed to do that you already have in the works that you haven't completed. And you're like, how am I going to get these tasks done? You have to grow. And growing is uncomfortable, which means that maybe I have to walk away from the things that I enjoy doing so that I can do the things that I need to do so I can live the life that I'm supposed to have. It's not always about being successful from the standpoint, being able to do what you want to do and live how you want to live. Sometimes it's about purpose. It's about mission, vision, values, something that God has placed on your heart to do, whether it's speaking or teaching or writing a book. Maybe it's volunteering or sharing or helping other people. And it's like, it's on my list to do, but I haven't made space for it to be done. Maybe it's paying attention to a specific relationship that's in your life. Maybe it's a friendship or a relationship with your children. Maybe there's some things that you need to stop and pause and say, I need to take note of this, or I need to do something with this. I need to grow in this specific area and not keep having tantrums because it's not going my way. Maybe I need to tap in instead of tapping out and isolating myself when life gets hard. Maybe I need to just do the hard thing that it is for me. God is working on us all in different areas of our lives. And we all know what those challenges are. It's just kind of like when you get a stain on your shirt and say you had a hamburger or something and the ketchup spilled out and it got on your shirt. Okay. And so now you have the stain on your shirt, and everywhere you go, everyone is telling you you have a stain on your shirt. It's like we know, like, I know I got a stain on my shirt. And it's like we know as people, as individuals, human beings, we know the areas we need to work on, the things that God is calling us to do and we're not doing, right? But it was a very simple statement: grow. Sometimes that means grow up. The Bible tells us when I was a child, I spoke as a child, I acted as a child, but when I became a man, I threw away childish things, which means that we got to grow up. We got to get off of the milk and get onto some real solid food. We have to stop blaming everyone for the reasons why we haven't progressed and grown, or arguing with people about this is not biblically sound and this is not this and that, and be the ones that teach others the truth. We've got to stop leaning on other people to be responsible for our outcomes and take control of ourselves and our own responsibility and the things that we need to do. How did I contribute to the breakdown in that communication? How did I contribute to the breakdown in that relationship? What have I not done, which is the reason why I can't connect with others? Where am I unwilling to really make adjustments and change? Who do I need to apologize to? Who do I need to forgive? See, all of those things are the hard things that we ourselves can control and take hold of and do the work on while God works on other people or the situations or the spaces. Sometimes we haven't been blessed to the level that we know God is going to, may have been prophesied about or told to, or saying, like, this is what I see in your future. You know, maybe we haven't had those things happen because we're not managing the level where we're at right now. It says, to whom much is given, much is required. And maybe I'm not stewarding well the people, the relationships, the finances, the services, um the clients, the business that I have now. So does that make sense for me to expect God to expand that and so that I can continue to not steward things well? Or is this an opportunity for me to, maybe I need to check that? Maybe I have an anger problem, I need to deal with it. Maybe I don't listen. Maybe I just get drilled down into what I want and I just ignore everyone else and what they need. Maybe I'm so focused on myself that I can't see the needs of others. Maybe I'm so focused on everyone else that I'm neglecting my own needs, my own desires, my own wants, the things that I need to do personally for me. Sometimes we can work, volunteer, and do all the things so that we don't have to sit with ourselves and deal with ourselves. So that was just an ouch for me. I thought that was a good way to rip off the band-aid and get it started. So let's check out another one. If you are persistent, you will get it. If you are consistent, you will keep it. Ooh, that was another ouch for me, right? Because I can be very persistent. If I want this, I'm gonna get it. You tell me no, that's okay. I'm gonna find a way or make one. I came from Clark Atlanta University, and that was our motto: find a way or make one. So I held on to that. I'm gonna find a way, right? But if you're persistent, you will get it. But if you're consistent, you will keep it. So maybe that is just in gaining momentum in the things that you're doing, whether it's your business, your product, your service, or something like that. Maybe it is in writing the book that you know you were called to do, or putting out your new innovative idea or product that you've been working on. Maybe it's just building your clientele or being able to expand the spaces that can hear your voice, being elevated in certain atmospheres and rooms and places like that. Maybe it's just something as simple as I need to be consistent about the things that I know I can do. It might mean I need to be consistent when I wake up and read my Bible every morning, or be consistent when I go to the gym and what it is that I do. When you are consistent, you are able to maintain a certain level of success because success is in your process. It's also sometimes in the details. Like, what are you doing? I always say that success is a journey, it's not a destination. So it's a thing that you're continually progressing to do. And success looks different to different people in different areas of your life. And so you have to really define, what does that look like for me? And so while I can be persistent and I can obtain it and I can get it, I've got to be a good steward over what it is when I do get it. See, God says that to whom much is given, much is required. And so he's looking at us to see that we are good stewards over what he has given us. And so if he's giving you the ability, the skills, and the talents to get it, to achieve it, then he's giving you what you need to maintain and be consistent. He's giving you what you need in order to evaluate it, to make sure that you're doing what you need to do. And when you're not, he's giving you what is necessary in terms of relationships, accountability partners, accountability checks and balances to say, hey, I think you're veering off. Hey, I don't think that's the best. Hey, you know what? Maybe you should pivot from this or perhaps look at it again. And whether or not we listen to it, that's where we get to go into the choices. That's where we fall into obedience versus sacrifice. That's where in our choices we deal with the consequences. But it doesn't mean that God didn't put things in the way to help us go the right way. But don't get too hard on yourself if you've made bad moves or bad decisions or made bad choices. We all have, including me. Just know that God is the redeemer of time and that he will cause all things to work together for the good of those who love him and are called according to his purpose. And that doesn't mean that go out there and keep making a whole bunch of bad decisions like, well, the consequences got to still make it right. No, because those consequences, woo, we've all experienced them, okay? Nobody's trying to run out here and just be dealing with consequences. No, 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 no. It's better to be obedient than it is to sacrifice because there are some things that you may miss out on. There may be some promises that you don't get to hold on to that you might miss because you chose to make a different decision. You got to be willing to be uncomfortable. You got to be willing to go through the pain. And you got to be willing to be consistent in the things of God. Oh, this is stinging me already. Okay, let's keep it going though, because we want to grow. We're not trying to stay the same. Nobody wants to be the same. You want to grow, you want to progress, you want to move to the next level. I want to get everything that God has set out for me to have, and I want to do everything that God has called for me to do. So, you know what? I'm not afraid of a little pain. I know that I can push through because greater is He that is in me than he that is in the world. I know that I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. And that even if there is a little thorn in my flesh, ooh, a little stinging in my spirit, He says His grace is sufficient for me. So let's look at something else. The degree to which a person can grow is directly proportional to the amount of truth they can accept about themselves without running away. Ooh, now that one stinks. It says, what can you accept about yourself without running away? Now, let me tell you something. That's a little hard sometimes, right? Because, it's easy for us to see the things wrong with other people. I can run down the list, right? I'm sure you can too. You see somebody like, I know this wrong, this wrong, this wrong, this wrong. Like we go down the list, right? But when we have to turn that on ourselves, when we have to take that constructive criticism, when we have to listen to other people tell us about ourselves, especially those who know us well, like our family or maybe our spouses. Nope, find somebody else to do that, right? That's what I be saying. Hold your testimony. That's when I want to come up, right? But when it comes to that, though, it's very important that we do that we know that there are certain people that God is allowing to speak into our lives. And if you don't agree with what you hear someone says, that doesn't mean you chop them off. I don't agree with that. That ain't right. Da, 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 da. No, you can hear it, you can listen to it, and then take it to God in prayer. Say, Lord, am I really like this? Are these some areas that I need to work on? Is this something that I really need to consider? See, we got to seek God in all things and sift God in all things because when we don't, it doesn't come out right. It comes out like this.
Did that go the way you thought it was going to go? Nope.
Right? Sometimes we be out here like, well, I thought that was gonna work out, but it didn't, right? Because we're not seeking God, we're not asking Him. And then sometimes we blow up when people are trying to tell us about ourselves. Those who love us, who care about us, who God has allowed to be in our life to help hold us accountable and be better people. Sometimes when they're sharing with us, we don't either listen to them or we use that as an opportunity to tell them about why they did something wrong. Well, yeah, I may not listen when I'm supposed to, but you know what? You don't listen either. Oh, yeah, I may not, but you know what? You can say that, but just know what? You need to apply that to your life. You need to apply that to yourself because you don't do this and you don't do that. You don't do this, you don't do that. And what we have done in those moments is it invalidated that person's feelings. We've invalidated their ability to share and give us truth and maybe help us see some accountability. Now, it doesn't mean that what we're telling them is not correct. It just means that we're not telling them in the right way and we're not telling them at the right time. See, everything has a season and a time. The Bible even tells us that. There's a time to live, a time to die, a time to laugh, a time to cry. There are seasons and time, and timing is important. God is the one that is the God over time, but He allowed you to exist in this time, in this season, today, right? So that means He has a purpose and a plan, and there's something that you get to do today that you didn't get to do any of those other days because He has a season and a time. There are things that are released to you in certain seasons and time when you're ready or when it's appropriate for you. And so that's the same thing when we get this kind of criticism, and part of running away is deflecting. And when we deflect, what we're doing is we're allowing the enemy to instantly take our thought and disregard what is happening and put it on someone else. Because see, when we do that, then that's not on me. I don't have control over someone else. I don't have control over what they do. So if they didn't do that, then I wouldn't have to respond in this way. And we deflect. We move away, we run away from what somebody is trying to show us and tell us about ourselves. So when we stand in it and we say, oh, that hit, that hurt. I will take that into consideration. Now, when you sift it with God and it's not what you're supposed to accept, then move it on.
Come here. Look at me. Hey, look at me. What'd I say? No. Come here. Look at me. Hey, look at me. No. Come here. Look at me. Hey, hey. What? You want to? No.
But if it's something that you're supposed to be working on and dealing with, then that's an opportunity for you to allow God to heal you. Maybe there's a wound, an open door, some trauma, or some healing that needs to take place that causes you to get so angry when this subject comes up or when people tell you about yourself. And that is going to affect your relationships. Your ability to be able to receive information and feedback from your spouse or from your children or things of that nature, that's important from your boss, your supervisor at work. That's important from your client, your customer. That's important. And if you can't handle feedback without becoming upset or irate, or, well, I'm just making a point, or let me just tell you about you, that means that you're defensive. So everything is about someone else or making a point instead of just saying, you know what, I'm going to take this hit, I'm going to get this ouch, and I'm going to go work it out with God. That doesn't mean that that person gets to berate you and be mean to you all the time. No, it's not an open door for everybody to give you their opinion about everything. No. But if God is allowing someone to care enough about you to tell you something to make you better, it's worth considering. And when you take it to God and God's like, oh, I ain't say that, then don't worry about it. Push it to the side and say, hey, that wasn't for me. And next time I know, hey, you can hold your testimony, right? But even if they don't, it's okay. You didn't lose anything. But how you react, this is, life is, they say, is 10% what happens to you and 90% of how you react to it. What is your reaction? Because see, what happens is God chastens those whom he loves, right? And so if you become a person that no one can tell you things, right? And they can't talk to you and you just, I don't need that. You don't tell me that. I know, right? Or we just blow up and we get mad, we get attitude, we get angry, we get whatever. Just like how you would deal with other people. If somebody reacted to you in that way, guess what you're going to do? You're not going to waste your time. You're not going to tell them, you're going to let them just keep running into the brick wall. You're not going to say, hey, you know what, this might help you along the way. You'll just let them go on and do what they got to do because it's not worth you arguing and fighting over. No, that's their life. So they will continue to struggle and suffer and go through some hard times because they're not willing to make adjustments or listen to things that could help them make an adjustment. And you got to understand that you only are a part of a piece of the puzzle. God uses several people throughout life to help other people. Okay. He has over 8 billion people in the world. Okay. You're not the only one that can be able to help somebody make changes and make things that they need to make. So while you may not say nothing directly to them, you can still pray for them. You can still intercede for them. You can still say, you know what, Lord, now you know that person don't be listening to nobody, but I'm gonna take it. I'm gonna take this hit. I'm gonna go ahead and say it. Then they're gonna cuss me out, Lord. But I'm gonna honor you and be quiet and hold my testimony. I'm gonna honor you and still show them grace and love and kindness. And I trust you, Lord, that you're gonna get them. Okay, because you know you're gonna get them, Lord. Okay. So if we do our part, what God has told us to do. That's all that we're responsible for. And He will do the rest. But we can't be afraid to receive in the same way that He calls us to give. And so sometimes we got to be open to receiving that tough conversation, that little constructive criticism, that ouch. Because sometimes that ouch, it doesn't feel good. It doesn't always feel good, but it will make us better. And He says He chastens those whom He loves. So we just have to thank Him for allowing this person to bring this to our attention because it will make us better in the long run. Okay. I hope that sounds like a plan. I know this is a little prickly today, but we're gonna keep pushing. We're gonna keep going because guess what? Our mamas didn't raise no punks. We're not about to give up now. We're gonna keep going because we're going to be better. Because there are things that we have to do. We got stamps to place all over this world. We got lives to change and people to help. And the more that we get the help that we need for ourselves, the better we can be for other people. So let's check out another one. As you heal, you will grieve the moments you missed out on. As you heal, you will grieve the moments you missed out on, how certain people failed you, and what your younger self deserved but didn't get. It's okay to be sad and angry. And that is a good one. It's a little prickly, but it's a good one because you have to forgive not only other people, but you also have to forgive yourself. Forgive yourself for the ways that you didn't show up or when you thought you should have been able to defend yourself and you weren't. You have to forgive other people and what they have done to you, whether intentionally or unintentionally. You have to forgive yourself for, oh, why did I trust them? Why did I allow them? Why? You have to even going through a process because sometimes you may need to feel like you need to forgive God. You may feel like, Lord, why'd you let this happen to me? You knew, right? And so you have to go to God in prayer. You've got to allow Him to heal you. You got to allow Him to peel back the layers and help you get the right perspective and understanding of the moments and the things that you experience. It's not an opportunity just to give up on life because we have pain. The Bible tells us that in this world you will have trials and tribulations, right? Even Jesus, okay? Even Jesus had to go through things. What did He do though? Kick the dust off His feet, move to the next city? Because you got to keep going. Every man must pick up their cross and walk, which means we all have to do the hard thing, which is called life. We are all fighting and pushing through something. But guess what? You must keep going. And you have to forgive people along the way. You have to forgive going back to even your childhood and things and moments where life just didn't work out the way that you would have wanted to. At the end of the day, we all have to overcome something because we live in a fallen world. We live where people make choices, and sometimes some choices are not the best for us, and we have to deal with the consequences of it. Sometimes we make choices that aren't the best decisions for us, and we have to deal with the consequences of it. And so we have to be okay with going through the process of healing and grieving what we thought was going to be, what we hoped was going to be, and what really is. And when we do that, then we can move forward because we understand that even though life didn't turn out the way we thought it was going to be, there's still so much hope for what it can be, for what the future holds. God says, I know the plans that I have for you. He says, my thoughts are not your thoughts, nor are my ways your ways, nor has it even entered into the hearts of men. Like God knows things that we don't know. The Bible even tells us there's more miracles, more things that Jesus did that is not even included in the Bible. There's so much more that we don't know. It's the same reason why you can read the scripture one day, you can read it the next day, and the next day, and every day you get a different revelation. You can stay on one scripture for an entire year and get a revelation, a different revelation every single day, because that's how infinite God is. He's beyond our capacity to even understand. And so just a little bit we get every single day just helps us to get better and better and better. And that's why forgiveness is so important. God says you have to forgive. He says 70 times 70. Because at the end of the day, forgiveness is what sets you free. Forgiveness is setting the captive free and then realizing that you were the captive. And so when we're going through life and we're seeing things and people aren't showing up for us like we want them to, and we're dealing with the hard stuff. I'm talking about the hard stuff. I'm talking about the real hard stuff, the stuff that be like, Lord, I thought, okay? When we have to go through that, we gotta understand it's a healing process. And it's okay to grieve. It's just not okay to stay there because everything has a season. And when you're in that season, that's okay. But you got to understand that God has greater. He has better days ahead of you. And He has greater for you to do. And that He will cause all things, not some things, all things to work together for the good of those who love Him and are called according to His purpose. So don't be angry all day long. Don't be sad forever. But know that it's okay to have those moments. The Bible even tells us that we can be angry, but do not sin. So going to God when we're in those high emotions and we're dealing with those high emotions, whether it be anger, sadness, joy, whatever, will help us have a real clear perspective of the moment. Because in reacting in high emotion means that we can react impulsively. And feelings are temporary. One minute you're happy, one minute you're sad, right? One minute you want to fight, one minute you want to laugh, okay? So those are temporary. But the things and the choices that we make, those are the things that are long term. And so we want to make sure that we are in alignment with God and doing what God has called us to do. We want to make sure that we are holding on to what God has told us to do in those moments, and that we're seeking Him about how we should respond or react in moments that are very high emotion, because we understand that they're temporal, but we know that our decisions and our choices are permanent. All right, let's keep going. We're not afraid. We're gonna rip these band-aids off, okay, y'all? We're not gonna be afraid of a little band-aid ripping. The next one says, treat me like God handed me to you personally, respectfully. Ooh, now that stings for a different reason. Because there are moments and times where we react and do things that are not in alignment with God, where we show up just not as our best selves. Sometimes we allow anger to overtake us. Sometimes we allow grief or sadness or pain or whatever state we're in or whatever season we're in. It can affect how we deal with others. And sometimes we don't treat others the way that we should. And I love this quote because it was a real reminder that guess what? This person, this man, this woman, this boy, this girl, this child, this individual is God's. And so we need to treat people like God handed them to us personally, because that's how we want to be treated. You know, when we look at relationships, we're like, ah, I need to be treated like this, and I'm that, and I bring this to the table, and I'm that, and I treat people well, and I'm this to God, and I'm that to God. But guess what? So is that other person. God cares about them, loves them, has a future for them, created them on purpose with purpose, just like He did you. And so while you may feel like you're justified in this moment, and maybe they did something wrong to you, but that's still God's child. So you have to be mindful in how you treat them, because God is going to look at that. See, to whom much is given, much is required, right? So God is going to look at you, who may even be more mature, more spiritually mature. He's going to look at how you treat the least of those. He said, I look at what you do to the least of these. So He's looking at how you treat other people, what you do to them. It's just like the story in the Bible where the man owed like $10,000, and he was like, please spare me, spare my family, spare my children. You know, I'm sorry, I don't have the money. And the man was spared. And then he went and berated another man who owed him like $100. And it was like, now you just got forgiven for this $10,000 that you owed. And now you're going to go berate somebody for $100, and you just was given this much grace. That's the same way it is with us when we are coming for people, and well, I'm this and I'm that. When we allow pride to get in the way, which gets in the way of all of our decisions and our choices, because then we start being self-centered and egotistical and arrogant. Well, I'm this, and I bring this, and I'm that, and anybody'd be lucky to, and I, be in my space, and my guess what? All God's children, all God's children. The end of the day, when we have to give an account of our lives, God's not going to say, oh, how great were you to this person? Like, how great did you show up, and did everybody bow down to you? No. He's going to say, how did you treat them? How did you treat the least of them? How did you treat the person who you didn't have to treat kindly? What manner did you treat them when it didn't affect your job or your outcome or your future or your ministerial position? Did you take time for them? When you were justifiably done wrong, and you had every right to go off, be angry, and do all these things, but how did you choose to react? Did you show love? Did you show forgiveness? See, God is looking at our hearts. He's looking at what is the motivation behind the things that we do. That's why they say, okay, only God, like man looks at the outside, but God looks at the heart. God knows the motivation, the intent. He knows what's in our heart, what we're harboring, what we're not forgiving, how we're not moving forward. That affects how we treat people. If I think that I'm all that, I'm going to treat you like I'm all of that. And there's a difference between pride and confidence. Confidence is that I'm fearfully and wonderfully made in the image of God. Confidence says that I can walk into this, and even though the enemy is coming up like a flood, I know the Lord will put up a standard against it. Confidence is saying that I will boldly proclaim the word of the Lord, that I will open my mouth and I know that he will feel it. That's confident. Pride says, look at me, honor me. Look at all that I am and all that I do and how I make it happen. You should be envious, you should be jealous, or you should treat me with extra kindness and respect because of who I am. Pride says, I'm better than you. Yeah, you got that, and that's all right, but it don't compare to me. Now, Jesus, the most important person in the room, in any room that he walked into, washed the feet of his disciples, went into the rooms as servants, saying that I'm here to complete a mission, to do something that my Father has sent me to do. And if Jesus can wash the feet of his disciples, the most important person in the room, you, dear sir, dear ma'am, with your faults, your flaws, sinful nature, think that you're better than someone else. That's a gut check right there. You've got to treat people like God handed them to you personally because he did. There's no coincidence or happenstance that you run into the people that you run into, that you cross paths with people. And if you're discerning and really in a constant relationship and reverence with God, you'll understand the reasons why. Maybe it's to be a listening ear. Maybe it's to share information. Maybe it's to give or to build a relationship. Maybe it's just to observe a moment so that you can be more appreciative of your own life or to apply it to a situation in the future. Everyone has a story. We all started out as babies. Now, the choices and decisions that were made along the way is what determines the outcome in our lives. But we all started with a purpose and a plan. And God has not changed his purpose or his plan for any of us. So even if in the moment we don't look like what God has called us to be or do, it doesn't mean that we get to treat people less than who God has called them to be and what he's called them to do. So this man was an uppercut because there was some moments. I can think of moments in my life. I can think of interactions and times where you show up right, but look, somebody else to do it. I got an attitude. I don't want to be bothered. But now I gotta go back and think, you know what? I gotta treat this person like God handed them to me personally. Because I am spiritually mature. I do know a little bit about some things. And so, to whom much is given, much is required. And the Bible says, once you know, then you're responsible for what you know. So, can't be a minister, you can't be a pastor, you can't be all these things and not show love to those who may not love you back. You can't be a minister, be a pastor, be a leader, be a spiritually called, mature person, and all the things and not forgive, even if you don't receive that forgiveness back. Even if that person doesn't apologize, you still have to rise to the level for which God has called you. And you have to treat people like God has called you to treat them. Because see, you blow up, you go off, you act funny to them, God's holding you accountable because you know better. It's just like a baby. A baby may act up and do some things that's like, that, that's not right. That's not okay, but they're a baby. So you're not going to hold a baby to the same level of accountability that you would a grown adult. And that's the same thing when it comes to spiritual levels and spiritual maturity. You're accountable for what you know. Because the more you know, the better you should be able to reflect God. They should see you and glorify your Father who's in heaven. Whew. That took me out, okay, y'all. I mean, I'm trying to hold myself together because I got some people like, Lord God, but God, right? All right, we're gonna keep going though. We're not gonna be afraid. We're not gonna back down from these hard conversations, these difficult moments, these uppercuts, these self moments, these self reflection that's causing us to be like, right?